In an arithmetic sequence, the difference between consecutive terms is constant. So this means you are adding something always. We saw several patterns, right? On some of them you multiplied, on some of them you divided, right? Specifically in arithmetic sequence, you are always adding. You could add a negative number, so it may look like subtraction, but you are always adding a number to get to the next number in the sequence. You're not going to find any other reason to go if you're in arithmetic sequence. If it is arithmetic, you will be adding to get from one term to the next. What you add, the difference between the first term and the second term, is called the common difference. Common difference. So if I were to take my second term and subtract my first term, I would get my common difference. So the first thing we're going to do is say, is this an arithmetic sequence? Am I adding to get from one term to the next? So if I look here, this first one, to go from 2 to 4, what would I have to add? 2. So can I do that for the rest of the sequence? No. It goes to 8 and it goes to 16. Is there a pattern? Yes, there is a pattern, right? I'm adding 2, then 4, then 8, then I'll likely add 16, right? There is a pattern, but it is not an arithmetic sequence because I am not adding the same exact number to get from one number to the next. All right? So just because it's not arithmetic doesn't mean there's not a pattern. It means it's not an arithmetic sequence, okay? All right, look at the next one. Is the golf pattern 1? So in the golf pattern, the inside has 6, and then it goes to 12, and then it goes to 18, all right? So how do I get from 6 to 12? And how do I get from 12 to 18? All right, so this is an arithmetic pattern, okay? I went the same number across the board. It can be positive, it can be negative, but it has to be the same number that you're adding. So 1, A, and B, are those arithmetic sequences? If they are, identify the common difference. The common difference is the number that you were adding to get there. All right, let's look at the first one. So for the first one, to find my common difference, I'm going to say 5 minus 2, which gives me a 3. So 2 plus 3 is 5, yes. 5 plus 3 is 7, yes or no? No. So this is not an arithmetic sequence. Look at the next one. 45 minus 48 is negative 3. Negative 3. 48 plus negative 3 is 45. 45 plus negative 3 is 42. Yes or no? Yes. 42 plus negative 3 is 39. Yes or no? Yes. Yes. This is an arithmetic sequence, and your common difference is negative 3. Negative 3. Recursive formula. So for recursive formula for arithmetic sequence, you're going to take the number. Recursive means I need the number in front of what I'm looking for. So if I'm looking for a sub n, I have to have the term in front of it, and I add my common difference, all right? So in this case, you could write minus 3 for the recursive formula, right? Because plus a negative or minus is the same. But if I want to do the explicit formula, I want to find the nth term. I need my first term, n minus 1, because my first term is not multiplied by, or added or subtracted to my common difference. My first term is my first term. So my second term starts adding my common difference. So n minus 1 times whatever the common difference is. All right? This is just like the one we did on the other example. That was an arithmetic sequence. We were adding to get from one to the next. So we take the n minus 1 times my common difference, and we add that to our first term. So a sub n is the nth term, a sub 1 is the first term, n is whatever number you're talking about, and d is the common difference, So you need to know these formulas for an arithmetic sequence. Let's look at example 2. Suppose you participate in a bike-a-thon for charity. The charity starts with $1,100 in donations. Each participant must raise at least $35 in pledges. What is the minimum amount of money raised if there are 75 participants? All right. So they want the 75th term in this particular sequence. They actually want the 76th because the first one is not a participant, by the way. So 76th term here. So we're starting with 1,100. That is our first term. We would call that a sub 1. All right. To get to the next thing, this is an arithmetic. We're adding $35 for every person, right? So this was going to be in arithmetic because we're adding $35 for every person. And so we would say, well, then I'm going to say n minus 1 times my 35. That is how I would get this particular sequence. My first term, n minus 1 times my common difference, what I'm adding each time. The reason they say 76, even though there are 75 participants, right, is because my first term is not a participant, okay? So I'm actually looking for my 76th term. And instead of taking 1100 and adding 35 to it 75 times, that seems like a lot, we're going to say 1100 plus n minus 1 would be 75 times 35. All right, 75 times 35. And the minimum amount here would be 3,725 when you calculated it all out. All right. So, in example 2, why find the value of 76th term? We talked about that, right? So in this case, we found the 76th term because my first term was not a participant. Use the explicit formula to find the 25th term in this sequence. So you are going to set up, I want you to set up an explicit formula for that sequence, and then I want you to find the 25th term. So my explicit formula, I find my common difference first. My common difference is my second term minus my first. 11 minus 5 is 6. That is my common difference. Then I just plug it in. It's going to be a sub n is going to equal my first term, 5, plus n minus 1 times my common difference. So that's my formula, explicit formula. To find my 25th term, I just plug in a 25. 25 minus 1 is 24. 24 times 6 plus 5 is 149. The arithmetic mean of any two numbers is the average of the two numbers. So the arithmetic mean would be average sum of the two divided by 2. For any 3 sequential terms in an arithmetic sequence, the middle term is the arithmetic mean of the first and third terms. The graph of a sequences are linear. So these are linear graphs, y equals mx plus b. If I were to distribute that d through, you're going to end up with linear because you're just going up by the same number every time, right? That's a linear graph. Geometric are going to be different. They're going to be exponential, but these are linear because if you were to graph your points in your sequence, it would be a line, all right? And so to find an arithmetic mean is very simple. You just add the two numbers and divide by 2. Look at this example 3. Find the missing term of the arithmetic sequence. So they told me this is an arithmetic sequence. They told me these are 3 terms in a row. So if I assume that I am adding the same number across the board, then it has to be just the mean of those 2. So I take the mean by adding them and dividing by 2. I would say the arithmetic mean would be 84 plus 110 divided by 2, 97. So this should be 97. From that, I can give you the common difference, right? 97 minus 84. I could give you the explicit formula if I wanted to for this particular sequence. Once I know what that middle term is. If they tell me it's an arithmetic sequence, I just have to add the two numbers and divide. So go ahead and find A and B.